All right, Pastor asked me a couple weeks ago to speak today, and just like feels like about every other time he asks me to speak, the devil comes and gets me. About Thursday, he went and started getting me all stuffed up and losing my voice. So we're gonna hopefully try to make it through this the best we can. Pastor asked me to speak on service, and as me, I was in the armed service. I was in the Army National Guard, so I kind of took what he told me literal. And I'm going to speak a little bit on the service, and to me, when I asked God to give me the message, and I said, spoke with him, and asked him, I said, what do you want me to speak on? What's the message? And the service. I was like, man, there's a reason they call it the service. And so that's what almost 19 years ago I took the oath. And I was laughing, me and Brittany, if I'd have stayed in next year, I could have retired. And I was sitting there and it's like, oh, I'm that age. I'm not, wow, okay, it makes me feel a little older. But I took the oath, and the oath goes, I, Nicholas Wamsley, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear the truth, faith, and allegiance to the same, and I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God. And I know many of you in here have took the same oath or a very similar oath. In taking that oath, I had to give up a lot. You kind of like, did you really give up a lot? But you no longer, when you join the service, are you just another civilian. You become a U.S. soldier. And I had never been a soldier. Didn't know what a soldier was supposed to do, so they sent me to boot camp. There I learned the basics of being a soldier. And in that, I learned the soldier's creed. Dear, would you put up that slide? Yes. I don't know if many of you can see that. Well, it says, I am an American soldier. I am a warrior and a member of a team. I will serve the people of the United States and live the Army values. I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. I will never leave a fallen comrade. I am disciplined, physically and mentally tough, trained and proficient in my warrior tasks and drills. I will always maintain my arms and my equipment and myself. I am an expert and I am a professional. I stand ready to deploy, engage, and destroy the enemies of the United States of America in close combat. I am a guardian of freedom at the American way of life. I am an American soldier. Contained in that are what are known as the warrior ethos. Brittany, the next slide, please. Those are, I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. And I'll never leave a fallen comrade. And soldiers develop the warrior ethos through discipline, training, learning, and embodying Army values. They also learn to make good judgments, which involve dealing with and confronting conflicting demands and information. The warrior ethos is a commitment to overcoming obstacles and selflessness, dedication to the nation, unit, and fellow soldiers. It also involves living with honor and the highest standards and character and discipline. Almost 6 years ago to the day, February 19th, 2018, I gave my life to Christ and made a similar oath. And in the years since, I have developed my own Christian ethos, I wish you would call it, off of what I learned from the Army. And I will always put the mission first. Turns into I will always put God first. I'll always put God first above everything else. You ask the question, does God come first? When you're going to go do something, you put God first. I'll never accept defeat. And I always say, the devil cannot defeat me. As long as I have God. So you have to add that. If you didn't have God, he could defeat you. But with God, you're undefeatable. I will never quit because he never quits. I will never leave a fallen comrade. Which you could use that in the same, but I think it goes better. I will always help those who need it. Amen. You never leave. There's always somebody in help that needs help. Amen. So you always should go out and help those. All right, we're going to go to John 13. And 13 through 16. Now I'm going to read what I can see because, but this is a New King James Version, but it's my American Patriot Bible. And here in the last couple weeks, I've been reading now my Patriot Bible, which it goes in, this Bible is pretty cool. It tells you, lays out what the founding fathers wanted, and it associates the Bible with the Constitution, and it even gives you like what scriptures certain presidents laid their hand on. And so it may not be exact what you're reading, but I'll read. You call me teacher and Lord, and you say, well, for I so am. If I then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example that you should do as I have done to you. Most assuredly, I say to you, a servant is not greater than his master, nor is he who is sent greater than he who sent him. So, Jesus gave us the example of what to be. Serving is more than keeping up with your to-do list. To be a servant means you generally need to care and love for people. It's keeping our eyes and hearts and schedules open for divine appointments. Jesus was not stressed by time. I am the world's worst about it. My wife can contest that when we are running late, which is 99.9% of the time, I feel like I'm having an anxiety attack. Because in the Army, if you're 15 minutes, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. And there's always a schedule. You know what's coming up. But with living Christian values and living as a Christian, I have learned that there's not always a schedule. It's not always set that says, we're going to go here and do this, we're going to do that. It doesn't always work that way, because it might be we're heading to go here, and then someone calls and says, hey, I need your help. Can you come help me do this? And we might have been running to Clarksburg to do something, but yeah, I'll come help. And that's more of what being a Christian's about than getting your stuff done. But Jesus didn't care what others thought of him. And I purposely did this because Brittany made the comment when we got in the truck or the car to get here. She said, all you're wearing is a black t-shirt? It's me, that's who I am, and I don't care what people think. I got a black t-shirt on, and that's just, I don't dress up too much. So in that aspect, it doesn't care what other people think of me doesn't really bother me. And I know there's people out there that think that they have to live up to somebody else's standard, but there's only one standard you got to live up to, and that's Jesus's. Amen. And Jesus was led by the Spirit of God and followed his promptings to serve and help others. Well, we're going to go to Galatians 5:13 through 22. She got her up. Let you being on the ball. For you, brethren, have been called to freedom. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh. And like I was saying, Christ is giving you freedom from sin, and what he's saying is don't use it for the world. Don't use your freedom just to go play video games or go do what, I don't like to say it, but other people do, like dirty stuff on the internet. For all the law was fulfilled in one word, even in this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, which was Jesus' one commandment. Love your neighbor as yourself. But if you bite and devour one another, beware lest you be consumed by one another. And then I like this verse, or these verses here, because it lays out basically what the flesh is. I say then, walk in the Spirit, as you shall not fulfill the last of the flesh. For the flesh lusts against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh, and those are contrary to one another, so that you do not do the things that you wish. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. Now the works of the flesh are evident, which are adultery, fornication, uncleanliness, lewdness. Is that the same word? I can't say it. Sorcery, hatred, contentions, jealousies, outbursts of wrath, selfish ambitions, dissensations, heresies, envy, murders, darknesses, rivalries, and the like, of which I could tell you beforehand, just as I also told you in the past, that those who practice such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no law. And those who are Christ's have crucified the flesh. It is passions and desires. If we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. Let us not become conceited and provoking one another, envying one another. Serving others and generally love go hand in hand. But what does that look like? So we could ask God or ask a few questions, and there's a few things that we could take survey of. Is your heart struggling to love others? You can ask Jesus, you can ask God for a change of heart, to be open to Him working, stretching, and changing your heart. Amen. And I can say, 8 or 9 years ago, that I was not open to anybody stretching my heart or anything. I was in a very dark place. It was a lot of alcohol and just living life. And so Brittany came into my life. She started working on me, praying for me about every day, and eventually got me to come to church. And a couple years later, I accepted Jesus. And so, but it took me a lot, even after becoming a Christian, even becoming, accepting God in my life, it was hard sometimes to stop and help somebody that I don't agree with, or help somebody that I don't like, or, and it's still, to this day, there's people, I won't mention names or anything, but that it's hard for me to want to help them. But I know it's what God wants me to do. He wants me to help them. And I'm sure a lot of us in here, if Joe Biden was walking down the street, we wouldn't stop to pick him up, but it's what God wants us to do. Take a look at your schedule. Is another good thing that we could do. And I try to preach this to Brittany a lot, and it doesn't work. But sometimes I feel like we're doing too much. Even doing good. Running circles, or running the circles like chickens with their head cut off. And we're doing good, but we're not. After a while, it's just a mouse on a wheel, and you just keep turning. And you lose that passion for it, or the connection, the genuine love for what you're doing. And it turns more into, I'm just doing something to be doing something. And so, but then again, put God first. Look at what your schedule is. Is it godly what you're doing? And free up your time and asking what needs to be done and what you can set aside. Begin placing others first in your day. Think about others' needs and how you can help. Every day we go out into the world, and we are serving in God's army. And it's up to us. Most of us didn't have a boot camp to go to learn how to be a Christian. We just followed others' examples. Pastor got to go to college. He went and they taught him. He had to pay for it, but they taught him, how to be a preacher. But we didn't learn. I didn't. You don't have school you go to and learn and sit down and say, all right, this is what you do. And this is our boot camp here, right? As we sit here together, is us learning and sharing with each other the words of the Bible, God's love, and it is up to us every day to take that, what we learn here, and to go out there and spread that message and to spread that love. And it's up to us to choose whether we accept to follow his orders or listen to what God says, because I know it's very easy sometimes to just sit there on the couch and I'm not going to do anything. Or be driving down the road and see somebody that needs help and we got to get to Walmart and just keep driving. Or someone, your phone rings and you're like, I don't want to deal with them right now. That phone call, I don't know how many times that you can, or how many of you know the statistic, and I hope it's not changing any or going up, but 22 veterans a day take their lives because of suicide. And that phone call, that got somebody calling you, might have been them asking for help. I can't deal with them right now. That could have been the phone call that stopped somebody from doing that. And I don't know the rest of the statistics on suicide, but that one touches my heart that it's 22 veterans a day. And I'd love for that number to be 0, but I don't know if we'd ever get there because of some of the awful, awful stuff that soldiers have to go through. And and Christians alike, and that's what I was thinking about, is Zeke asked me this week when I was going through this, and he said, how many people did you fight? And I was like, I didn't really have to fight anybody when I was in the Army. I said, I was one of the lucky ones. I went overseas, but we really didn't have to get in any firefights or do anything. Didn't see anything super crazy. I did see a camel get run over. That was pretty weird. But as far as seeing, people blown up and all that stuff, I didn't have to see that, and I was very fortunate and lucky for doing that. But I know several people that have seen that and that have nightmares about it and have messed them up. But it got me thinking about how even as Christians we have people who go over and they serve overseas and they see some pretty bad stuff. They have to go through some pretty bad stuff, just like our soldiers today. But it really got me thinking this week when Pastor asked me to speak of the similarities between serving in the military and the oaths and the promises you have to keep and the persona that you have to uphold. And being a Christian, and there's a lot of similarities and there's a little bit of differences, but it really is. What I learn from one helps me in the other. I really wish when I joined 19 years ago that I would have been a Christian. I went to church a few times when I was there, and it helps, but I wasn't a devout Christian, and me and Brittany had to talk. If I was to go back, I'd probably like to try to been a minister in the Army or something, and But my days of being in the Army are long gone. So, but yeah, we, get ready, Pastor. But we go out every day and we choose. And I know every day that I go out, I'll be the first to admit it. But that is the definition of sin, when we fall short of the glory of God. That's why he died on the cross for us. Because we never can live up to that. We never can be perfect. You can't be perfect going out every day. You can't uphold that every single day. But that's why he died on the cross, because we can't, but he can.